Listen, guys, I can't even wait to the end of this little mini introduction. Without further ado, I've been waiting to have this guy on for over a year now, and it's just things have just all barriers have just continuously gotten in the way. But if you have seen his work with Dreadlocks, this brother has been around for my research, and you got to correct me if I'm wrong, since 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give you Mr. Andre Bates, man. Appreciate you for showing up to the show. How's
Oh, thanks
everything
for
going?
having me. Going
Thanks,
wonderful.
man.
How about
So,
yourself? Thanks for having me.
man, I'm good. I'm out of town. I don't have any distractions. I'm in a hotel. I'm on
Good, good, good.
business with my job. So,
Okay.
we've been going back and forth for a couple of months, and then we finally
Yes, we
got you
have.
locked in.
Yes, we have.
So, so tell me a little bit about your background. Maybe it's humble beginning. Just we don't know how you got started. Tell me, but first we want to know a little bit about Mr. Andre Betts.
Okay. Basically, it started the same way most people out here that started doing comics. Grew up reading different comics such as Marvels, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer. Basically everything Marvel put out back when I was a kid. Coming up, in the '70s. That's all we basically had to do besides, going outside, playing basketball, a little football, things of that nature. But on my other time, I was always reading comic books. But as time went by, I got into understanding things a little bit different once I became a young adult. When I started seeing, too many other characters outside of who those that represent us. So when I discovered that, I ended up going into the military. It's time back in it was back 84, 89, 90 during that time frame. That's when I started coming up with just concepts and just thinking that I want to do my own comic or at least do something I could submit to the Marvel or DC, see how that would work out. But as time progressed, to see that wasn't my avenue, so I had met you know a couple of brothers back in the early '90s. I actually started doing dreadlocks in '92, to be honest. But
Okay.
my first book that everybody actually seen was in '95. But I started like late '92 when everything was color pencil, black and white interior, all that good stuff. But we had to print out like 3,000 plus books and so on and so forth. But needless to say, after reading all the different books and not seeing the representation that was needed, I decided, I wanted to try this route. And as I was saying a minute ago, met a couple of brothers, brother Dawu Anyabele, he was a big help. He probably remember when I met him in D.C. That was during the Million Man March back in '95.
Yeah.
And I seen his work. I had already seen his work because I had purchased, Brother Man comics, at the Shrine of Black Madonna in Detroit.
Hmm.
And I was already fascinated with what he was doing. And also, I ended up meeting Alfonso Washington, who did Original Man, Omega Man. I
Yes,
met
very
him,
original, man.
and he was giving me good insight. And who else did I meet? I ended up meeting, Larry Stroman, Todd Johnson at the Todd Johnson's comic book store because he, right here in Detroit. So I met him. But that was later on when I met him. And Larry Stroman. Larry Stroman had some good information, good constructive criticism, critiquing. They get me to have a better understanding of some things as well. Uh, After that, I started creating my own.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, speaking of creating your own, I want to take a peek at some books that you actually created.
Uh,
Right here, we have
Absolutely.
Dreadlocks. Is this the first
Yes.
ever comic book that you created?
Yes, it is. You see the price on it, $2.50.
It ain't $2.50 now, brother. That
Right.
shit ain't. Man,
Right.
so tell me a little bit about. I know I got this picture up here,
Mhm.
but and you talked about Todd Johnson, who I've met. You talked about Larry Stroman, who I've met. You talked about Alonzo Washington, who I've met online, and we've gone back and forth in DMs and things of that nature. But what was some, coming from you're a born and raised, born and bred in Detroit, correct?
Right.
So, was there any inspiration? I know you said, "Hey, I read comic books." Doctor Strange was one of the characters that you brought up, but was there any particular things that was going on in Detroit at the time when you were growing up that kind of led to some inspiration that you started to dwell into a little bit later?
Well, I started getting a lot of information and reading a lot of information as far as studying, under Nation of Gods of Earth, Nation of Islam, Metu Netter, Rotten Ephra Man, Asser, Set Society, things like that. Started influencing my creation. The cover that you just shown, if you notice, it's a fiery background. The city is burning. If you notice that, it was a reason for that is because why? Everything that we deal with, it has to come down in some form or fashion. So Dreadlocks being that revolutionary type hero, basically just burned the city down in order to, rebuild it. You
Out of
build
the
it,
ashes.
destroy. Out of
Yeah,
ashes come, true life.
yeah,
So a lot of that was going on at the time, but city politics, I never really got into city politics as far as in getting in depth into it to really understand. But the governmental politics was another thing because me being in the military, I was able to see a lot more and understand a lot more. So therefore, since this is already something that was in the back of my head, I would say that was my biggest influence in creating the type of character that Dreadlocks is.
gotcha. Well, brother, I know you said that you served in the military. I do not want to allow you to keep talking without telling you thank you for your service. I appreciate
Thank you, appreciate it.
it. You got it. So it's 19. So in this particular book, this didn't come. This came out in 95, correct?
No, this one here
98,
came out in 90. Let's see, was it 93? I think it was. It was
93.
93 when this came out.
Okay,
Because
93 when this came.
the following book, well, actually, it did two. It's another one I had as well. But the first full color book came two books after this one. So
Wow.
this is the
So this
first
is
full black
92.
and white.
Wow.
Well,
So this
actually,
is
I had another one that I did as well that nobody ever seen. If you got that one, let me, I'll be shocked with that one if you got it.
what's the name of it? It's
It's
still called Dread,
Dreadlocks. Yes.
and it's not on your website, correct? Because I would have
No,
had it.
no, no.
Okay, so I have to go digging for that one. But that one was distributed. How many copies did this particular cover have? This was still the first one. How many copies
Right.
were produced of this?
This right here, I produced 3,000 copies of
So
this
there's
right
three
here.
thousand copies sitting out
That
there
was,
somewhere.
no, no, it was 6,000 owners of this, or 3,000 owners of it, or maybe I would say 2,999 owners of this right here.
Gotcha. And I know you. I'm praying that you put some to the side for yourself. That you
Yes,
haven't
yes.
seen.
But
Awesome.
I will say this right here. I did have water damage in my basement that destroyed a lot of my original stuff.
Ooh,
Yes, including my books.
wow.
That
That
was
was
big.
years ago, or was that recent?
Yes.
Or
No, that was years ago. It was a big hurt, but it is what it is.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, we're gonna run through a couple of your comic books. I have ordered some already. Um, Particularly, I want to talk about um, this cover here. Really, really, one of my favorite covers. Dreadlocks flying through space. Can you tell me? Would you consider? I'm asking you. Would you consider
Okay.
Dreadlocks your flagship character, or talk to me a little bit about Dreadlocks?
Well, Dreadlocks is my flagship character. When I started Dreadlocks, I actually started a whole group of characters that I called Black Watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it was too much for me at the time as far as the writing is concerned. So
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself, and I talked to my partner at the time, well, partners at the time, to come up with some ideas what they thought who should be the flagship character, and it ended up being Dreadlocks. And so I pulled Dreadlocks out of the whole Black Watch fold and made him the flagship character. And I figured everybody else I'll bring along through time.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, what? Tell me your inspiration. We'll talk. We'll start with Dreadlocks, and we'll start going down. Of course, the gamut of the other characters. What was the inspiration behind the Dreadlocks character? Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, the inspiration once again is different books, different texts that I read. Like I said, Merunator, Message to the Black Man, Destruction of America. Yeah, I can go on and on. I got a 500 book, library of different books that black authors were writing, and I never really seen any black characters out there that possessed, locks. Number one, and
Nope.
had a beard. Most of
Mm-mm.
them was clean cut,
Mm-hmm.
clean shaven, and I was like, we got to do something different, and what it was locks, beards. One thing that the American society wasn't really approving back then was a black man with a beard, and let alone locks. It was something about that they just shy away from. But we
Gotcha.
never shy away from our own images, so therefore
Yeah.
I decided I would go ahead and try that. But the thing is, a lot of people, they really gravitated to it, which was cool, because they're so, I guess, us so engulfed into our culture and what we bring. So they like to really see what we're doing. So they really had appreciation for just the look by itself. Then we have the inspirations when we get into actual comics.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at Doctor Strange, because when you're dealing with mysticism,
Mm-hmm.
mythology, you're dealing with Thor. You got a little bit of that aspect in it. That was part of my inspiration. Him being a cosmic character. We're dealing with a Silver Surfer. That's why you see this space background, because he is a cosmic character, but he is stationed right here, in the Earth atmosphere, as I call it, the fertile universe. Um, we I would say Silver Surfer, Thor, Doctor Strange. A combination of all three of those would be my biggest mixture and influence as it relates to the character Dreadlocks,
Gotcha.
because I deal with a lot of mysticism and mythology when dealing with a lot of different issues in the book.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Can you talk to us a little bit about his superpowers? How he got his origin? Let's start with that. Can we talk a little bit about the origin of
Okay.
Dreadlocks?
So the origins, basically the way it all started, when I did the first book I think first book called Revelations, the full color, I started working on the
Mm-hmm.
origins of Dreadlocks, because a lot of people at the time, remember, I had the black and white books that had been out for a minute. And so at this point, everybody was like, "We ain't gonna do an origins. We ain't gonna do an origins." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing it soon." Now we're working in full color, print on demand. It just got started, and I was like, you know what? Let me do an origins book so everybody can truly understand how Dreadlocks came into existence and understand his superpowers. Some people understand it, some people don't. But it's all good either way, 50-50. I'll take that.
I
So
gotcha.
basically, Dreadlocks was, he was born as a, earthling right here in our world, and his mom was stoned because the women at that time, they thought that there would be a god coming back to impregnate them, to give them this immaculate baby. No one believed that. For some reason, one lady in particular, she experienced it. She ended up pregnant. She ended up having dreadlocks, the baby. But she was stoned because everyone stoned her as being a witch. In her culture, they stoned her as being a witch, and she ended up losing the baby, dreadlocks. So she
Mm.
sacrificed the baby to the gods of Kemet, Egypt. When she sacrificed the baby, they dematerialized the baby's flesh and brought him into a cosmic tube, or say a cosmic vase, recreating him and creating him out of spirit, then of soul, and then creating him into a physical being. And they added all the laws of Ma'at, which is basically where we call them negative confessions, 42 negative confessions of Ma'at, 42 precepts of Ma'at. Basically, they're laws where the original Ten Commandments, they come out of that. So he basically, through spirit, had to recite these, and he had to fight a spiritual being known as Amit, which is the devourer of all souls. So he was able to defeat him in his first fight. So they ended up making him into a physical being. Once they did that, they figured, okay, it's time to send him off into the universe that we want him to protect. And that was what they called the fertile realm. And the fertile realm is what we call Earth, our universe, our solar system. So they sent him off to protect that system because why? Your current superheroes that exist, Europeans in particular, never pay them any homage. And when they do, they don't show it the right way. So therefore, they said they created one themselves that they know for a fact will show them homage, one that can basically do their will and show respect for who they are and their existence. So therefore, now he's in our realm. They gave him the power to deal with anything necessary as far as his villains that he come in contact with. One thing you'll learn in the books is Dreadlocks is a blind character.
Hmm.
She's not, he can't physically see, what's surrounding, but he picks up everyone's energy and what they're truly about through the vibration of their bodies and their energy. And the gods sometimes interfere and gets into his mind when he meditates to him. And now he knows what he has to deal with. And they engulf him with the power necessary to deal with whatever entity that he's dealing with until he get to certain other realms where their power is not is basically is powerless because their powers don't even exist. So they do to some degree, but they can't help him all the way through. Because in this book right here that you're showing on the screen, at the end of it, you'll see a difference there. I think this is the one where it changes. No, no, it's the next one after that I'm working on now. You'll see the change in his suit. He still has this suit, but it's a change up for a moment. And it's a reason for the change up. And I'm not going to give up too much on here.
Gotcha, gotcha. I noticed that you're trying to give me just a bit of it. You don't want to spoil it for the readers. Um, really, really dope. I never would have looked at him and said that okay, he's blind, but it's interesting what you did versus doing your run of the mill daredevil sense and whatever. He's actually has some type of spiritual sense. He's able to see and get the vibrations from the people around him, and then basically address it accordingly. So that's pretty cool. I'm on this cover right here. I see him shooting lasers from his eyes
Mm,
and things of that nature. So basically, his powers. I'm asking you. His powers are basically whatever is needed at the time. So
right.
it can whatever at the time that it calls for, he can make it happen. So that's pretty cool. If he's
If it doesn't
underwater,
destroy
he
him,
can adapt.
if it
Different things
doesn't,
like
if
that.
it doesn't destroy him, you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you can have too much power. Next thing you know, you can't use it correctly.
And
Because
then we
remember,
in
he's
then we
not.
in trouble.
He doesn't truly understand all his powers.
And one of the other characters that stuck out to me that I love, once I discovered who Nubia was. You have Queen Nubia. DC Comics has Nubia, but you have Queen Nubia.
Right.
Here's a picture of her too. I like her outfit. I like the way she's
Thank you.
dressed. Can you tell me a little bit about? I'm assuming your flash. Well, your only female character that I saw. Can you tell me a little something about Queen Nubia?
Queen Nubia is basically the co-leader of the group I have, Black Watch.
Hmm,
I also have another female in that group, Sheba. So they're like co-leaders of the group.
hmm,
She came into existence through that, but she's the daughter of one of my characters called Pharaoh, which is she's also the sister of another character that I have called Mizraim. So I just did a recent book of her. Well, recently I did a book, her solo book, just to introduce her a little bit more by herself. And she basically controls her environment, her world. She's off world, so she basically has. She's like the queen of her whole dominion, I would say.
hmm,
Is there's males on the planet, and as female, obvious they're females as well. But the planet gets invaded by the patriarchal, um, am I saying it right? Patriarchal planetary, just mad beings or whatever to just come. They just want to change up the whole format and take all the ladies of the planet and just do whatever they want to the men as well. Because they consider them weak anyway to allow these women to rule. So she's more or less like an airbender type,
Gotcha.
is what she is. Um,
Gotcha.
she can control the elements, not like a storm or anything like that. Nobody can be as powerful as Storm. I didn't want her to be like that either,
Right.
but I wanted to be minimal but strong at the same time because she can basically take the oxygen out of your existence and just destroy you that way.
Yeah. What was the inspiration behind this character, Queen Nubia?
But the inspiration was I needed a female character, and no one ever talks about Nubia itself as far as it relates to uh, Kemet and how at one time Nubia was well, Egypt was ran by Nubia at one time, and so I added a lot of that information within her character, and it's not too much over the top or whatever like that. So I didn't do anything like that because I still wanted to be, comic book friendly. I don't want anything to be preachy or anything like that, but I have it where it's comic book friendly. So my inspiration just once again, like with Dreadlocks, is the information that I read. I needed the female character, Queen T. Uh, I don't know if you know anything about Queen T, but
Mm-mm,
the
not
images
familiar.
the images of her just was fascinating. And the 70s as well. Our black women, with the afros and things of that nature. I just felt that, hey, I'm tired of seeing these black women in these comic books with perms or straight hair. We got our sisters, we represent all facets or whatever. It's not one look in particular that they don't have. So with that being said, this is one that wasn't in the books right here outside of Miss Unite. Miss Unite.
Yeah, she does have Misty Night flair to her. I definitely can see that.
Right.
I don't,
Exactly.
but I definitely don't pick up Storm vibes at all, which is good because you want to make a like an original. You don't want to, you don't want to have something that's kind of a derivative or a knockoff.
Right.
Great value version or something like that. I will say this though. I think the very first time I discovered you was probably based off of this. This is the artist, I believe, is Machendo.
Machendo. Yes.
Yeah.
Great
And
book.
this, I was like, what is this? I love
Uh,
the art. No, this is Dreadlock War of Gods. I just ordered this one that had Nubia up
okay.
front. It had all this stuff. I'm like, bro, the art is so crispy. I was like, and I think at the time it didn't have the trade dress on top. It was just a regular picture that was on. This might have even been cut off from this point up. But talk to me a little bit about how you and Machendo met, how you guys collabed. What did that do for the company when you guys teamed up?
Well, when I connected with Machendo, that's a very good brother, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I met him. I seen his work before on. I think it was Queen Afua. She wrote a book. She was out of New York, and I forget the name of the book she wrote, but seen his work. And I met him in Philadelphia at the East Coast Black Age of Comics. It was I think, the first year of, no, it was the second year of East Coast Black Age of Comics when I met him. And I was like, man, your work is awesome. And I just, praise his work even to this day.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I asked him, could he do something for me? Because most of the work that I had for Dreadlocks at the time, the cover that I had was a digital print of the graphic novel that I have out now.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, he'd be more than happy because he liked the concept behind Dreadlocks and what Dreadlocks represented.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, he did a couple of images, and he did a collage because I told him I wanted a book, excuse me, that represented like a certain type of war that's getting ready to take place where I introduce all my characters briefly in a book. And so he was like, "Oh, I got an idea," and he put it together, and that's enough said. After that, it was a wrap. And
Yeah.
so I had the book. I think it was San Diego Comic Con I went to
Mhm.
when I first printed the book, and yeah, they were really loving it out there.
Oh, I'm sure they did. One thing about I will say his art is recognizable anywhere. You can put
Yes,
it
it
up
is.
against anybody clothes. And it's just I don't know, it's something about how he spaces the back. I think what a lot of people sleep on him is that he has this he's really good at fantasy art, but he's also really good at the background because
Yes.
the depth that the background takes you almost see every time he draws it's you have this off-world feeling or you're
Yeah.
in a dream. It's kind of a misty dreamy
Hmm.
look. It's kind of what we see him the depth of where he goes. I think people sleep on that because that I think that's what separates him. I really think the most. I mean, Alex Ross, people, we know him. We see his
Right.
art; it's
Right.
recognizable. John Romita, Jeremy Jr., things like that. But this is one of the most slept on brothers I've ever seen in the comic.
He is slept on. He is
He's
slept
like
on.
a deep sleep, like
We
coma
know
sleep.
we actually needs his flowers while he's here, so we can get
I,
him
I
out there
want I
more.
want to bring him on the show, and it was too late to really to be respectful for you and what you got going on to bring you guys both on here together. But
Mm,
maybe we'll do it next time. But
okay.
I definitely want to bring him on because he's done a lot of work for a lot of brothers, and I want to say, I want to make an argument, and I was around back in the early '90s, but he probably was the go-to top artist back in the
He
day.
was. He was.
Hands
And
down.
he was. And even today, it's people still trying to get with him to get some work done. And like I said, when I met him, I didn't. I put it. My cipher itself just didn't allow me to just walk and not connect with him to get some work done. He's done a lot of work for me as far as pinups, posters, covers that I still use to this day.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just dynamic work, and you can't just put it down just because it was done back 20 years ago or 15 years ago. It's like this work is going to stand forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely going to stand forever. And I'm glad that it is. One of the other things that I saw and I own, and I thought it was cool when I saw it because, and I'm gonna pull it up here. There was a comic book that was made 10, 12 years ago, and it's highly revered in the black comic space. And it's this book right here, War of the
Okay,
Independence.
War of the Independence. Okay, Dave Ryan.
And we literally have your guy front and center flying up. I
Uh,
mean,
do you
tell me
have
a
the
little
cover?
bit about tell me a little bit about how you got involved with War of the Independence to this day, because we still waiting on Epiphany Engine. But until this day, this
Yeah,
is a
that's
heavy
the
book.
ultimate crossover right there.
It's the
Yeah,
largest. It's to this day, it still stands the
yes,
largest black
yes,
crossover ever in comics. But
it
tell me
is.
how you specifically got involved. How did you hear about this? What was going on? We because I don't really think we had opportunity to look in that. We know Strowman did the art on this, but talk to us.
Yes. Well, I met the guy that did it, Dave Ryan, the brother that did it, Dave Ryan. Met him online. This is, I think, right when was it when Facebook first kicked in or MySpace first kicked in. It was one of those back in the day. I met him online, and I did. He presented this idea to me about bringing the different characters together, and he named them off. Lucius Hammer. He did Jibba did one of his characters. I think he did I forget who it was that he used in there. Uh, there was a lot of different independents, not just black in there, because it's some white creators as well that did black characters. And I thought it was a grand idea. And at that time, I was like, well, Dreadlocks could use a crossover. You know what I mean? Especially
Yeah.
one like this on this level. So
Mhm.
Dave, when he reached out to me, I was like, "Cool, I'm with it." So I met Dave in New York. I think it was New York Comic Con, my my first New York Comic Con. And when I went, I met him there in person. We talked for a long while. You know, we kicked it, and I was like, "It's a grand idea. Let's make it happen. I'm with it." And he just put it all together. You know, he had all the resources, and everybody that was in this book was more than happy to be a part of it. And he just pushed the button, and he got with Larry Stroman. Once I knew that Larry Stroman was doing the covers, I was like, oh yeah, most definitely I'm with that, because he did another cover as well with this. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have that.
it's on the reverse side. I just didn't have it
Okay,
pulled up. Yeah.
yeah, he did the artwork, so I knew I most definitely wanted to be a part of that because I had met him, years prior. You know,
Mhm.
like I said, the comic book store in Ferndale, which is the one that Todd Johnson owned. I met him there, and I was more than happy to be a part of it because I liked his work in general. I really didn't know a whole lot about Dave's work, but I was game to do this because of all the independents that were going to be a part of it.
Wow. Um, do you got? Hopefully you have a copy of this. I got a
Yes.
copy of this. I got a copy of this. Now I'm gonna tell you something. I just as you right when you got finished, I wonder if it's possible. It'd be crazy if you can get everybody that's on this cover to sign this darn book and get it slabbed. That would be tough. That would
Yes.
be one of a kind
Yeah.
freaking beats.
That'd
Oh
be
my
too
god.
real. That'd be real tough. I don't
That'd be
think you.
you would have to fly to almost every state and try to coordinate the logistics of getting
Right.
that signature. Some people would obviously charge. You gotta fill up your tank. You better pack a
Right.
lunch because you go. This is a little
Airline
effort.
tickets.
I'm pretty sure some people have got. There's probably a handful of people that's got a couple of signatures because they got this back in the day. Mind
Right.
you, this was before Kickstarter, so this happened
Yes.
all out of this person's wallet. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
He had
Correct.
to just get it done. And shout out to you guys for getting it done.
Yeah, that's what I mean
Um,
by he had the resources to do so.
yeah, yeah. Tell me, so this was you said early 2000s because this was Facebook, MySpace coming around. Maybe I think maybe yeah. So what was the climate like compared to today back then in the early 2000s? We're going to go to the 90s. I'm because I unfortunately I was unable to get Tortel O'Nelly in here. I wanted to get him on the show, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I understand. So can I
And
take it back to the 90s?
let's start with the 90s. Go ahead, man. Tell me what the climate was like. What was the attitude amongst different creatives?
Mm.
Like, tell me what was going on?
So when I first got in and started learning different things as far as the comics are concerned, and like I told you, I've met a few individuals at this time. I think what's the name? Washington, Alonzo Washington. He had just produced his his figures, his toys.
Yep.
Uh, Dawood was still doing brother man. I think he had laid back a little bit because I think he had just got into doing animation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I say, you had Tribe, and then I came along. It may have been a few others. It wasn't many of us out there back then. So the one thing I did learn from the brothers that were more independent, more so than uh, Image Comics, uh, there was I call it selling books out of your trunk. Basically, wherever you go, you selling books.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of that back then. We traveled to the different events, like the Black Expos were the real big thing back then. And one thing I learned from Mr. Washington and Dawood was about the Black Expos. A lot of comic book creators, well, I shouldn't say a lot, 'cause there was only a few of us, maybe 5 or 6 of us back then. Uh, we weren't really doing the Black Expos, but what I learned was there were people there that was interested in our books. We just had to be there. But what I had learned around that time was festivals were even bigger than expos. Festivals being, outside, like the African World Festival, We had the festival in Chicago. I think it's called uh, what's it? Festival of Life. I think it was called Festival of Life. That was out in Chicago. That was pretty big. So books was moving like hotcakes. It didn't even have to have social media for that because people like what they seen. They like what they heard as far as what the stories were about. And like I always tell individuals, people always buy what they want and what they like, what they hear. If it sounds good, they want it. If it looks good, they want it.
Yeah.
And it was relatable. So back in the '90s, we didn't have a big competition thing. 'Cause like I said, uh, Alonzo, he was doing his toys, his action figure. He had like 1 million+ action figures that he was just doing real good. He stopped doing comics after that, to be honest.
Wow.
And Dawu, he was doing his thing, and he was no competition with him at all. No competition with Alonzo and what he was doing. With Tribe was no competition because they had Image backing them, and they just did 1 million copies.
Yeah.
So everybody had their different avenues, I would say, their different lanes. So no one was really in the same lane. We all, crossed each other's path as far as where we were selling our books, things of that nature. And being in Detroit, being one of the blackest cities out here, we had a lot
Right.
of venues to go to, a lot of different events to go to sell books, set up shop and sell. And that was long before I left out of Detroit to go other places like New York, Chicago, places like that, St. Louis, Indiana Black Expo. That was real big for us back then. So that was the '90s. And
So,
then,
and it was fascinating to me. I started collecting comic books in the 90s. I'm just in my 40s or whatever. But
mm,
um, I said that to say this, man. We spoke to Roosevelt Pitt with the creator of Anai,
mm-hmm,
Purge Comics. I'm
and the
pretty sure you're
press.
familiar with those. And I like to call it that you guys got it out. When people say, "Oh, I'm getting it out of the mud," no, you guys got it out of the
Mm,
mud. There
right,
was nobody sending y'all monies. There was no Kickstarters. You
right,
couldn't get online to do nothing. You
right.
had to save your money. And I talked to Alonzo. Listen, man, the way I got these action figures, I had to save my
Mm-hmm,
money, and I had to on a wing and a prayer put it out there. And granted, it worked, but I had to hustle. I had to get in
mm-hmm,
my car, sometimes drive,
mm-hmm,
to conventions that were small, that were large, and just try to make my booth back, my
mm-hmm.
booth rental back. I
Correct.
mean, you guys, and there wasn't a whole like if you guys saw each other at a con, you write his phone number down on a sheet of paper, you guys would communicate via cell phone. But there
Mm,
wasn't the World Wide Web where you could just, oh, Alonzo's doing this over here in Kansas City.
right.
Oh, Bats is doing this up here in Detroit. You just kind of, if you could literally be thinking you're the king of the world, sit
Mhm.
someplace in California and not even know what somebody's doing across the
Right.
country. So
That's true.
shout out to you guys for doing. And I'll be honest with you too. When I was coming up in the '90s, people were reading comic books, but I mean, were they okay? So let's, because I don't want to overspeak here. Did you have this nice little? Granted, if you go to the Black Expo, you don't have to worry about it. But when you just went to the San Diego's or just your basic comic book convention, tell me about the white patrons that would come by. Tell me about the black patrons. Did you have black people that would kind of like, this ain't Marvel and DC? Would you have some white boys that would come over and be like, haven't seen something like this since Luke Cage or Black Panther. Let me give it a look. Or what was the energy coming off of the people that would come by the booth?
Well, the energy, well, we can look at it several ways. You do have, the people that look like us that would walk by the booth and would only stop by the booth if they seen somebody white at the booth.
Wow,
Does that make sense? That even happens to this day.
absolutely.
So back then, it happened quite a bit. Black nerds, whatever, before the word blurred even came out. Uh, they would just walk right on by. But the thing is this something that they were looking for? You know, no, it wasn't. Like you said, they were only looking for whatever Marvel, DC, Image Comics, Dark Horse at the time was dropping out, and there wasn't many black characters as far as Luke Cage was concerned. He wasn't really popping during that time.
Mm-mm.
Uh, he was popping in the late '70s,
It's
But
the
when it
80s.
got into the '90s,
Yeah.
they had did Luke Cage 2099 or something crazy like that. Nobody's really feeling it. So Black Panther, excuse me, they were looking at that, I would say, but for the most part, independent blacks at the comic book conventions, it just wasn't happening. As
Yeah.
far as white people, they would buy my book in particular out of curiosity, which it was cool with me because curiosity selling like that,
Yeah.
I'm good, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it ended up producing more of them coming back.
Hmm.
If they got my book, say on a Friday at Motor City Comic Con, and they came back the next day, that mean they enjoyed the character, so they want to get a copy to read, and now they want a copy to collect. So that worked for me pretty good. But like I said, unfortunately, like I said, the black patrons, I can't necessarily call them patrons, the, they became patrons once they seen the white people buying the books.
Yeah.
You had those that seen it and they liked what they seen and they just came and bought it just on GP. But as far as a Comic Con, most of them it seemed like they had to wait on their leader or master to buy the book, and I think it's safe for me to do so since you know George is over there buying it. I can buy it too.
I was hoping that you wouldn't say that. Honestly, I was hoping that you would give me a little bit of a better, like, oh yeah, I had a couple black guys, but to this day, we still got white folks think it's hot. Okay, come on, let's go
Yes,
here and buy some. Yeah, yeah, dreadlocks, man, that's our character, baby. Yeah,
right.
like we got to get out of that. We got
Yes.
to, and it's not a comic book thing. A lot of
No,
people
it's
don't know
not.
it's comic.
It's
It's
not.
it's a black thing. It's some
Yes, it
things
is.
that we got to things that
Break
we
from.
got to unlearn. We got to
Hmm.
unlearn some stuff.
Have to
But
break
to
from.
this day,
So when
conditioning.
we
Go ahead.
so when we get a little bit later on in the '90s, like I said, mid '90s, '96, that's when we get into the Black Expos, '95, '96, and that's when we learn now. Okay, the comic book convention is not really, you know, my avenue there. Even though I'm producing comic books, that don't even make any sense. So, needless to say, the Black Expos, the festivals in the different cities, they worked a whole lot better
Mm.
financially. Uh, and then I eventually started getting back into comic book conventions, and eventually created my own comic book convention.
Now that's called the Motor City Black Age of Comics,
Yes, the
or
Motor City Black Age of Comics and Manga.
gotcha. And what year did that start?
Motor City Black Age started in 2009.
2009. So
Yes.
it's not super old. So it's
No.
it's 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 started in the almost in the 2010s, and you did that. And who did you get with to, like, obviously, because I was watching a documentary. Tortel O'Neill was like, hey, some folks hit me up in Philadelphia, was like, hey, we want to do the East Coast Black Age Comics. He was like, absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about you guys' relationship with you and Tortel. I know he passed this
Yeah.
January, but talk to me a little bit about why you decided to do the Black Age. You could have just did Motor City Black Comic
Yeah.
Con or something. Talk to me a
Could
little bit.
have. Could have. Well, like I told you earlier, I met Machendo. We'll start with Machendo. I met him in in Philadelphia. I also met the brother Yumi, and who put the East Coast Black Age of Comics together. I met him uh, around 2000, I think 7 or something. It was the second year of the East Coast Black Age, and we got a good relationship, good rapport. So he started talking to me about possibly doing something in Detroit. He knew somebody that was thinking about doing something in Detroit on the lines of what he was doing in Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a grand idea because I was kind of thinking about that. If they have this in Philly, I should be able to have this in Detroit, or somebody should be able to do it in Detroit. So, needless to say, when I got home, we talked a little bit, and he mentioned Turtel to me, and I did the research, and I seen that Turtel had the Black Age, the first Black Age in Chicago. That's why we call him the Godfather of the Black Age, back in
Mm-hmm.
'93.
Mm-hmm.
So I started kicking it with Turtel a lot, and me and another brother named Joseph R. Wheeler. He started Onyx Con in Atlanta,
Yeah,
which
nah.
is basically a branch of the Black Age of comics. So, like you said, I could have used another name, but when I met Turtel and talked with Turtel, he was like, "Your brother Andre, I don't have a problem with you using Black Age of comics there." I say, "Yeah, I think it would allow that name to ring everywhere if you could just have a Black Age everywhere throughout the United States, because that means it's not just Philadelphia, it's Chicago, Detroit, LA. You never know where it can be." And
It
so
pop up. Yeah.
he basically gave me the go ahead do to use the name Black Age. And I was like, cool. Once he gave me that, I did the
That's all you
first
needed.
one. That's all I needed.
All you
And
needed.
and Detroit being the type of city that it is, which is 85% black to this day, when they heard about an event featuring black comic book creators, it was over. Now the first year it was off because it was the first year, and I
Yeah.
did it in the coldest part of the year, which is
Yeah.
Black History Month. In
Mm-hmm.
February, it's a lot of snow here in Detroit. So it was very minimal as far as the amount of people that came out. It was upstairs of the Shrine of the Black Madonna. And after that, the second year, I did it another location, which the crowd started getting bigger, and it just continued getting bigger. And I had to lay off a year because of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and getting ready to do another one. I haven't put the date out there, but I can put it on here. September the 20th this year
Okay.
will be the next Black Age, Motor City Black Age.
It's
And
gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot then if
oh
it's in
yeah,
September.
it's still gonna be warm. Yes.
But y'all
So
be inside or outside?
well, last year I did it inside outside. It was in June. I did it
Mm-hmm.
inside outside a place called Art Block,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a bunch of tents outside and had vendors on the inside, and it was off the hook. And that's actually the first year that I brought it back to Detroit because I had it in the suburbs a couple of years,
Gotcha.
which really not suburbs as far as I'm concerned. This is right across 8 Mile, which in Detroit 8 Mile is a big stretch, but it's right next to the suburbs, and I had it over there, and a lot of my people didn't come over there. But when I brought it back to the city,
To the
it
city
was
a
just
lot. You
off
have
the
turn
hook.
out. What is your turnout typically, and what is tell me what your turnout typically is, and then tell me what is the largest turnout that you guys have ever had at Black Age.
My
You can ballpark it. You can ballpark. I'm pretty sure you weren't sitting there with a clicker. So
No, I wasn't. Not at all. My largest crowd was at a place called Youthville in Detroit, downtown Detroit. I would say it was maybe 500 at that event. That was the largest one.
you gotta get
So
police and
people was
everybody
in
out
and
there,
out,
bro.
in and out. It had dwindled down as far as numbers are concerned, and started picking back up. After time, it dwindled down for about 2 or 3 years, and now it's starting to pick back up now. Because now we have people coming out that have bought dreadlocks for their kids. Their kids are coming out now. Like, yeah, I got my copy right here. My dad bought me 20 years ago, so on and so forth. And they heard about the Black Age, and they actually want it signed and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
get them signed, baby. Get them
so it
signed.
has been picking up because of that.
Gotcha. Well, I want to head over to your website. I want the fans. We're gonna definitely got to bring you back on. 'Cause I know you got a whole lot more. I mean, you've been
Oh
doing
yeah,
this
yeah.
for a long time. So this is
I
just
got a
more.
storybook for you.
Oh yeah, this is just basically an introduction into the character, into Andre Batts, into what you do, what you provide, Motor City Black Age of Comics. For those of us who don't know, but I want to run over to the website really, really fast so folks can know uh, some of the products that you have for sale, and we'll go from there. Let's get this thing pulled up. But yeah, man, this is an interview I've been trying to get worked out for a long, long
Yeah.
time. So this is your website. Shout out to the kids that you're working with. This is some of your product here.
Okay.
You obviously it's Herb. So the website for all those who do not know, it's urbanstylecomics.com. That's urbanstylecomics.com. You can use PayPal to pay. I just bought a book today. I'm actually gonna buy another one. You got this video here. How long is this video?
It's not long.
All right.
It's it's not long at all.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I
If you
appreciate it.
guys want, go ahead.
I say I
Oh,
appreciate
yes.
that right there.
No, no, no. It's all good. So click on any link that says shop. It'll take you to all the products that he has available. No, you cannot get Dreadlocks #1. No, that's what a lot of people are looking for. I need that book.
Not the black
But
and white.
hey, you can always do a reprint. A lot of tons of comic companies do that.
Well,
Um,
the thing about me doing a reprint is that's part of what was damaged.
ah,
My original work was damaged. That's why I say it was hurtful, because not only were the books damaged, it was basement flood, big time basement flood. It just water just went everywhere, it just destroyed everything.
but you got, and I hate to lean into it a little bit more, but you got to have at least one copy that ain't get
I
damaged.
I do,
Yeah,
but
maybe,
problem
maybe not.
is, it's got. I would say the moisture he got to it, because we try to turn the page, they were cracking.
Okay, okay.
So it's like,
That just
I've
makes
been
it.
trying different things or whatever with the ones that I have, and I got another idea that may work, but
If you
I'll
have
see.
the original page, if you have the original art, maybe you could might be able to do it. Um, we could talk about that offline because I know some people that might be able to get you with some even a company that could support. Um, I think it has potential to sell again. Absolutely, Dreadlocks #1. I also, I got something that I'm going to start petitioning all Black creatives to do. We talked about it last night on the show. But I want to talk about these awards here real fast. So you got are these proclamations from the city?
Yes,
So,
City of
City of
Detroit.
Detroit, recognition of exceptional achievement, and lasting leadership and dedication, improving quality of life. So, this is from the City of Detroit, huh?
Yes, my home, my home base.
Innovative
These are
African
actually the
American
only two.
artist.
These are the only two awards I ever received as it relates to what I do.
But come on, man, the Spirit of Detroit Award, Wayne County Resolution Award, award accessible. Listen, man, how many people out there can say that
no,
the freaking city gave you proclamation like that, man? Ain't a
no,
lot of
that's
people
why
can
I
say
say
that.
these are the only two that matter as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, man, don't put these in your basement, brother.
No,
put these,
no,
put
these
these in
not
the
in the
street.
basement right here. No,
Oh man, put
these are up
these
high.
someplace up. Put them up high. I would put them in a vault in a safe someplace, man.
They're framed and everything.
Yeah, definitely. That's big kudos to you. Outside, yeah, great. A lot of people can't say it, but we're gonna lean into that. A lot of people can't say that, bro. Like, shout out to you. Congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank you.
listen, the city doesn't. what's the city got to do with comic books? Like you can easily look omit it. Like okay, who cares? But what you're doing seems like I saw from the pictures that we scrolled through. You're doing a lot with the youth, and so
Mhm.
you're becoming very very attractive, and you've been doing it for over 30 years. So
Right.
well deserved, great art. So yeah, man, shout out to you for this. This is first I've ever seen of something like this, man. Next thing we gonna know, they're gonna have a city name. Not a city, but they're gonna have a street name behind you, man. Who
Yeah, I
knows,
hope
man? Or
so.
even dreadlocks.
I hope so.
Hey, that'll be dope. We're gonna keep scrolling here, yeah, but that's something very, 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 very unique that I haven't seen. But check out Urban Style Comics. Most of the folks that follow us heavy, they're already aware of you. They're aware of your product, which is talking about. This is Dreadlocks animation. Let's go ahead. This is. You know what? I'm
Beautiful
not gonna get
animated
into this.
logo.
I'm not gonna get into this. I'm gonna let the folks that are watching this show go to the website, and I want you guys to watch it. I want you guys to hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you thought of this video. So no, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I want you guys, but definitely go and shop. Click the link, Urban Style Store. It's got a lot of dope stuff. I've ordered some stuff from you, so and I'll be ordering at least one more book tonight that I saw.
I
But
appreciate it.
say it again.
I appreciate that.
Yes, man. Okay, two things. Then we're gonna let you go because I told you an hour. I only got 2 more minutes. I want to respect your time. Um, two things. Da, 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 da. What do you have, really briefly? What do you have coming down the pipeline that's going on next with Urban Style Comics LLC?
So as far as urban style comics I'm working on right now, I have a couple of books that are in print. I have my follow up Dreadlock books. Got two. Got a variant cover to the Immortal Rebirth book. That'll be ready for this weekend. I have a
Oh,
show that I'm doing called the Motor City Comic Con right here in Detroit. Well, actually, it's right
mhm.
outside Detroit. Uh, let's see what else I have. I'm working on the animation project. You know, as far as getting ready to get the maps done and things of that nature, colors and stuff like that. I have a game for my character Jihad AD, which I also have his follow up graphic novel. It
Is this
should
this
be
guy,
ready.
this brother right here?
Yes,
Okay, gotcha. Keep going.
his
I'm sorry.
graphic novel is the latest one should be ready as well this weekend. I'm looking forward to that one. Uh, and then I'm getting into some of my other characters to have them ready for when I go to New York, June 14th. I'll be out in New York, and I have quite a few graphic novels for that event as well. And then I'll be
Okay.
working on the next Dreadlock book afterwards. Get it ready for my following event, which will be the Motor City Black Age and Kim Fest, which will be the following weekend of the Motor City Black Age.
Gotcha. Definitely. So, are these books that you're talking about? The book that you said is gonna be ready this weekend. Is that gonna be in your shop online for us to buy this weekend?
Yes, actually, I need to add them. I need to add a few other books
Okay.
to the shop. I'm going to try to do that by Thursday, sometime Thursday, and they should be available this weekend. Because usually when I do a this show in particular, or even the Motor City Black Age, I usually have some type of sale going on during those two events.
Gotcha. Well, brother, we are going to hold you to that because I'm going to get up early. So you say Thursday. I'm going to look
Mhm,
on Thursday. I know you say you're going to add some more the weekend. So I'll be
mhm.
on there Saturday and Sunday.
Oh yeah,
So
you'll
I
see.
want to see what you got for
Oh yeah.
me to buy.
Okay.
Lastly, this is kind of a shot in the dark. I'm going to be pushing this heavy because I want to see it. So you're familiar with, and I made a post about this. You're familiar with the Marvel Comics hip hop covers, correct?
I've seen
Hip
some
hop
of them.
variants. You've seen some.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Marvel did a pretty good job. And
Mhm,
I'm not going to ask you to make a hip hop cover. I'm not asking you to do that. And I don't know the legality to all that. But
mhm.
there's a lot of movies, The Wood, um, Brown Sugar, Vampire in Brooklyn, and somebody I think it was Swag Patrol did one of Hollywood Shuffle. I want to put this bug in your ear officially. I would love to see you, as well as other folks that do what you do more homage variant covers of black pop culture. That may or may not be your thing, but give it a look.
It's a good
Because
idea.
because once it drops on Black Comic Lords, depending on what movie it is, it's gonna get some burn. It's
Right, right,
so gonna be going off because and you're gonna be having to grab some boxes because you're gonna be shipping some books out. If you want some ideas, now granted, it's gonna take those things take time to produce because you want them to be right. But
right.
if you have somebody that say yes, that would be awesome. Um, there is tons, and guess what? There's so much that hasn't even been tapped. Even hip hop covers, even soul covers. You got because most of the folks that are in this hobby probably super heavy are probably around my age or older. So we're gonna know about the P Funk covers. We're gonna know about the
Okay.
hip hop covers. You can go back in the '70s and grab an
Right.
iconic cover and just
Look,
rearrange, play. You know how I do my BCL variants. And brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna sell
it's
because you're
funny.
not gonna see, huh?
That's funny you mentioned that because I was kind of leaning towards that myself. I was thinking that uh, the variant covers with some different '70s images as far as the black exploitation era and
Mm,
somewhat what took place, in the '90s with Boys in the
mm.
Hood and all that. Yes, it's already there in my brain.
I listen. So I'm gonna be probably sending you some images. You do what you want. I can't, this is your company, but
Right.
I'm gonna be sending you some imagery. And if folks, you guys got some good ideas, leave it into the comment section. It is 10:04. We're 4 minutes over, but brother, I appreciate you for getting on this show with us. We finally got. We are going to bring you back,
I
and we
appreciate it.
can potentially talk about the new books that are about to drop. But brother, thank you for coming on the show. I've been chasing you. I've been chasing you for a while. We finally got you on here, man.
We
Keep
finally
doing
made
what
it.
you're doing. Keep
Hey,
doing
you
what you're
guys
doing.
keep doing what you're doing as well. You guys you're doing big things, so keep doing it.
We trying, brother. It ain't easy. it ain't
Hey,
easy.
I know, I know,
It ain't easy.
I know.
But we do what we do. All right, man. Thank you so much for
All right,
everything you do. We
thank
out.
you and peace, bro.
Peace. All right. Guys, um, head on over to Urban Style Comics and go pick you up some books. I am going to be pushing those homages, man. We need more black pop culture things to look at and integrate them. We need to take the things that we like in music and pop culture and infuse them a little bit more into these comic book covers. I'm a cover lover, so I'm going to push them. So y'all might get a little annoyed with me, but I'm going to be I'm going to be pushing these black comic book creators. I can't push Marvel and DC through it. They're not that. Look, we did y'all hip hop covers. Y'all go shut up. Y'all go sit over there. But with these black creatives, absolutely. Now listen, y'all know your boy. You know your boy with the comic lords. We do variants. This is what we do. We take things. Now I take pre-existing things and it's a mosaic, and I hash them up and I mix them around. Y'all have seen the work if you're in BCS. Some people like them, some people don't. But yeah, man, a lot of Photoshop. But man, listen, this we gonna bring this back. It's one way or the other. So either you're gonna be a part of it or you're not. But I should say be a part of it. We out. Shalom. Go in peace. Definitely go and pick up these Dreadlock books. And this is very. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna put this out there. Probably shouldn't do this. The last person that got their books damaged, like Mr. Batch just said, was Kevin Greavy. And Kevin Greavy went on live. His books were damaged, and this is documented from his mouth on our show. He went into his basement flooded, same, or I think I'm sorry, his garage flooded, and a lot of the Blue Marvel books were destroyed. So he went online. He started buying a bunch of them. The book spiked. I mean, dude, Blue Marvel #1 was going for like 3-4 grand at one particular time back in COVID. Y'all was just kids at the time. No, I'm just messing. But this book You just heard the man said around 3,000 comics. We don't know how many of those books were destroyed. Now, I will say this: there is one cover online, and it's over. I think it's a little bit over. It's Dreadlocks #1. I didn't even know it was from back in '92. I thought it was '97, '98. And if I'm pretty sure he's accurate because this is his book. This is 1992. This is a pretty dang old book. Now it goes for over $250. It's on eBay. If you got the cash, I would go grab it because I haven't seen any Dreadlock #1s just kind of just pop up. You'll be more lucky finding a black man. There's a couple of black men online right now, or Eben, or even a Chocolate Thunder pops up, but not this book. And the guy Alonzo Washington finding his books, we might be able to help you with that one day. We got some things working. But appreciate you guys for watching. We're gonna try. I've been on this little warpath of grabbing a lot of these brothers who was in the game early. As you can see, Brother Bats is up a little bit. It's a little up in age, probably just maybe 10 years old, something like that. But Tortello Nelly just checked out back in January, and unfortunately, we were unable to have him on the show. Shame on us. Shame on specifically me, because I should have saw to it that it happened in 24 and even in 23. He was a member in our space. I say all that to say this, man. You're going to see a lot more black independent creatives, specifically that I have set out to do. That's going to be OGs from the 90s. We were able to get Roosevelt Pitts on here. We were able to get this brother on here. We obviously Todd Johnson, Larry Stroman, but we're gonna keep bringing y'all because 20, 30 years, who knows what's gonna happen? But we're gonna be able, your kids or people, maybe there are gonna be some more Paul Richards and even folks like yourselves, Herschels, that's gonna say, "Man, I want to know what it was like in the 2020s, the 2030s." And now you're gonna know because it's documented. YouTube ain't going nowhere. It's got too much information on it. If nothing else, they'll just roll over this stuff to someplace else. But yeah, man, thanks for watching, man. I went down a whole rabbit hole for like 20 minutes here, man. But appreciate y'all for watching the show. Yeah.